Get started. Go ahead, my librarian. Introduce
Oh, well,
our guest, Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom. Well, thank you everybody for coming. This is a great turnout. It's our last book club meeting talking about Hit 'em When It Hurts, and it's with Dr. Rachel Bitecofer, who is also Dr. Doom. Somebody, Gottfried recommended changing your name to Dr. Dem since you're like fixing everything.
I like Doom better.
That's that puts some fear into that's also works.
There you go.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us and being willing to chat with us about everything. I'm not really a good MC, so well,
You want me to take over for a bit?
sure, you go take over.
I can MC. All right, Doc. So let's do this. Everyone, if you want to ask Doc a question, we're gonna have an opportunity to do that. I don't know how long Rachel has here, but we want to give some folks an opportunity to ask her a couple questions about the book or just in general. But Doc, tell us about the book quickly, and then why it's because I call it Rachel's Bible, so I'm not really. It's kind of funny in that this week Trump's trying to sell Bibles, but I think this is more of a guidebook, just a book of how to win and how to get our messaging straight. So tell the audience about your thoughts on the book and what led you to write it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm very grateful that you guys focused a book club on my book and that all the people who participated in the book club. I've never been in a book club, but I've always kind of wanted to be in one. And it's really deeply personally satisfying to know that people are finding this book useful in the way that it was conceptualized to be. And that really comes down to the mission of the book. In 2020, election night of 2020, I knew we were going to pick Trump out of the Oval pretty early. It took days for them to formalize it, but that was my job. So I knew that we had done what we needed to do at the federal level, at the presidential level anyway. But also that night, it was a mixed bag because Democrats got shellacked down ballot. And it shouldn't have happened. I mean, if your president's winning, if your guy's winning the presidency, there's something called coattails. You should have them. If anything, Democrats should have been gaining seats in the House, not losing them. We're very lucky we held the Senate, majority. And then I realized, okay, they're going to get killed in this 2022 midterm effect that's coming. And from my political science brain, which you guys have now been exposed to in quite a bunch of detail in the front half of the book, it's just a reality. The midterm after that presidential is going to be brutal on the party in power. And I was thinking to myself, my God, if they couldn't win against a crazy man killing 3,000 people a day and holding a bill called the HEROES Act hostage in the Senate, like, how are they ever going to handle this in 2022 as the in party? And that's really where, like, I became mission focused. I decided I was going to burn my academic life up completely and go into Democratic Party politics. I had no insiders into that because as an analyst, it's the opposite. You really don't want to be inside with the thing you're analyzing as an academic, right? So I had to start really at the very basis of the bottom. I had some national attention and reputation from the forecasting work that I was able to leverage, but my first impulse was to create a outside infrastructure that gets around the DNC and all of the other infrastructure to come and run new strategy, because I knew it would be incredibly difficult, it probably likely impossible, to change how those bureaucracies operate. And that was why I launched Strike Pack. And so if anybody's in here from that very beginning who also donated to Strike Pack, it was frustrating but also very useful, because although I wasn't able to get a budget to distribute the messaging, and for me, distribution is the key. If I have no desire to do performative electioneering. I want to move votes to the polls, and for Democrats, and to do that, you need millions of dollars in distribution budget. So I realized, okay, I should probably retool, reassess, and use. I had some leads into the party's infrastructure let me go see if I can work with the party directly in wherever capacities I can get into in 22. And so that's what I started to do. But I also had the opportunity to write the book. And when I was, when that was coming about, Ginsey, stop. When that was coming about, I was really focused on, okay, even if I can change some of the, some of the people at how people at DNC and the Biden Harris campaign and all this other stuff, like I can only talk to so many people, convince them. The book was about taking my brain and giving it out so that it's out there and can go anywhere. It isn't tied to me as an entity. And to have it work out, to the team that worked on the book at Penguin Random House, my agent, my co-writer Aaron Murphy, who's just incredibly politically talented as well. Like, we all wanted this book to be, as Tony has referred to it, as something that people are bookmarking the pages they find it so useful for. And so I'm really just very excited that as a team we were able to deliver on that goal, that this book is making a difference. I'm training all 57 state party committees on this book at the April meeting for the DNC. They put me in a primetime speaking role, and they bought 3 copies of the book for all the leadership that's going to be attending. Like, the message is clear that we need to make this pivot. And now what I'm really working on is trying to get into the swing map down ballot, Senate and House, because the Biden team is rolling fat. They're just absolutely killing it if you haven't been paying attention. They know what they're doing, and now we just need the rest of that swing map humming from the state legislative races up to the House races up to the statewide governor, Senate races. And that's where you guys all come in. We need a digital army, and we need everybody maximizing their influencer power. As I said in the book, whether it's 150K or 150, you're an influencer. And the most important thing we have to do, each of us, is find all the people we know, and we know them. They don't read the news. They aren't watching politics. I just put up a Google trend to show how much more interest people have in Diddy than in anything Biden did this week. We have a potential to go and find the tuned out and to tune them into democratic emergency. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about the book, what you learned, what you're doing, what worked for you, what questions you have. And I'm going to open it up so that we can max our time for that. And I'm going to let my dog out of the bedroom so he stops barking.
One really quick comment I had about it was, and myself, and I'm assuming almost all of the people who are here, we're all pretty educated, whether it's formally going to college or, just informally, keeping up with what's going on. What I loved about your book was it was it helped save me from myself, because I'm a librarian. So by nature, I want to tell everybody about everything and all the stuff. And it really helped me focus on what's important and why that doesn't work and why we shouldn't do that. And it was very refreshing to kind of get somebody telling me almost what to do, because I don't have that. I subject specialties are political science, helping others research political science, not necessarily analyzing political science. So that was a really awesome tool that you made for especially people like us who are who just need a little hand holding of what to do, how to how to not everybody is as educated in politics as we are, and I have to save me from myself in and to be a little more patient and keep that in mind. So who did anybody want to start off with a question?
Yeah, if you guys want, you can raise your hand and we'll try to bring you up as you raise your hand if you want to come up and ask Doc a question or just have a comment. Just raise your hand.
Don't be afraid. I don't fight, even though I'm a dog.
Yeah, there should be a little hand button. I'm not really sure where it is because I don't have the hand button, but it'll.
It's down at the bottom. It looks like you're slapping an ass. It's a hand. It looks like you're slapping an ass. So. Slap that ass.
Oh, you raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'll bring a couple of folks up.
Darren, did you have something you wanted to ask Doc? Oh, he's gone now. I thought Prunella was.
Yeah, I don't know why. I brought Prunella up and she dropped down too.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's really nice to meet you. I got to watch your video, do a little thing on it because there was just so much to unpack in the video between you and Politics Girl. And then the other question I have is, have you gotten any response as to if the staffers are issued your book like it's fucking manual and boot camp?
I mean, that's really what's happening at this meeting, like the position that they've put me into at this meeting is like kind of meant to say, hey, that's not a suggestion, it's an order. Use the strategy, right? As much as we can order things. So, here's the thing I'll tell you. I haven't sold a lot of books because I know it seems like I'm very famous, guys, but I'm really very not. But where the book has sold has been massively impactful. So it is exactly congressional staffers and others who are using this book, who are, I know for a fact that it's being used, right?
I'd just like to make the suggestion, if at all possible during this, if you could tell the staffers that listen to the audiobook, have it playing loud, have a whiteboard up and write down every idea that comes, because we have snark and we have weaponized snark.
Oh, no doubt. And I got to say, like, some of this book, like the book, the book is it's a year and a half process, and we did it in a very condensed timeline. That was one of the reasons I brought Aaron in, and the best business decision I ever made was to bring him in to work on this with me, because it's so readable and digestible and understandable. And I'm an academic, so even I'm a little wonkier, even when I try not to be wonky. So, it is definitely the case that people are responding and using the book and learning how to do things off of it and making materials using it. I'm working with a lot of different spaces where people are implementing parts of the book. But the most important thing is like, if you don't read the book, you can't do the strategy. So getting people just to know about it and getting it on people's radar has been very difficult, and that's what I'm focused on now.
Thank you.
Hello, am I next?
You're next.
Go ahead. You're next.
Hi, Dr. Bitecofer. I'm really enjoying your book. My name is Mimi, and you can call me Prunella, though, also. I want to preface my question with a statement, which is, I'm old. In 1968, I was a teenager, but my mom, who's since passed away, was also very into politics, and she was very upset that year by what happened to the Democratic Party in terms of process. It kind of moved from a backroom process to a different process in order for McGovern to get on the ticket, which was exactly what Nixon wanted. So there's that. We don't need to go there. Point is, the DNC has been a piece of shit through my entire adult life. And whenever the DNC asks me for money, I say, do something, and maybe I'll consider it. So my question to you is, who are your top 3 candidates for who could run the DNC as an effective organization?
Yeah, my top pick for the DNC chair is Jamie Harrison. And the reason is, I'm going to push back on your. So yes, you're right. Historically, the DNC has been a hot mess. But since Jamie's come in, not only did his leadership and the strategic shift and his legitimization of my work make such an impact in that 2022 map, where he beat back a red wave, right? Something that should be impossible to do. Every special election since then, the Virginia state legislature, everything the man has touched has turned to gold. And the reason is that he's doing all of these things that you guys want him to be doing. The problem comes in what the DNC does and what people assume the DNC does. The DNC has two roles: raise a shit ton of money and then build the in-state infrastructure that you need to get out the vote, basically. Okay, so all the early voting, Sunday voting, absentee voting, pre-voting stuff, and then post-voting election day stuff. That's what the DNC is focused on. They don't do messaging. The messaging is coming through each of the three campaigns.
It's not the messaging that I'm upset with. It's the fact of lack of support for down ballot races. And
Yeah,
just
he's changed all of that. You should go to his Twitter feed, because I don't
Okay.
have it right now. And if you're not following Jamie Harrison, and go look down it, because he's been posting all week about all of the progress, and he has taken this organization massive investments into all
I'm
that
going to
shit.
take your word for it. I
Yeah.
kind of have been thinking that the Dems were winning because the Republicans were shooting themselves in the foot the whole way, and like they are trying to lose with Dobbs and all that stuff. So, but I will take your word for it, because I'm enjoying your book, and so you are an expert and a person who knows what they're talking about. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you. I appreciate you schooling me. I never mind that.
No, it's okay. It's just like, what he's dealing with, though, is a reputational issue, right? So, like, he's made all these changes. You're super engaged, but you didn't know about any of them, right? So, like,
Right.
it's, you know what I mean? You'd have to have Googled up Jamie's work at the DNC and really look and see what they're doing to know that there's been all this massive progress. I mean, or not, for all of the shit that happens out of DC Beltway, they aren't going to write a article about how great the DNC is doing. But when you look at the DNC versus the RNC, like, the RNC used to be really good, and now it's being degraded, and now it's going to be rated like a pirate, right? And so the RNC is descendant, and the DNC is ascendant. It has gotten better and better at what it's doing, and really expanded its scope of operation. So,
all right, I feel better now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Rachel, real quick,
Just like I
to
tell
follow up.
people, you can't be mad about what you don't know about, but you also can't be happy about what you don't know about. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Thank you.
So let me follow up on that a little bit, Rachel. So because you said that there's a couple different things that the DNC does. One of them is to raise money, and I think that's the thing that I've noticed as we've really pushed boundaries and messaging. It really has had an effect, going up the chain, and Jamie, and especially one guy that I can think of right in the front of my mind is Akeem Jeffries. Is the messaging has really been able to help them raise money, because that's one thing, and I think that's what Pernell is kind of saying is, how am I supposed to give you money if I'm not confident even in what you're saying and how you're messaging it? And I think that's one thing that's changed. And as we push boundaries and push back on the idea of that we go high when they go low, like no, get in the dirt. Let's this is a fight, and let's fight them.
Yeah,
So
every time you guys see a campaign communication or a tweet from someone that is calling their opponent a MAGA extremist, okay, like that's reform right there, man. That's the that shit wouldn't have been happening without team reform, and I'm not alone on the team. There's other people who have been pushing this stuff too, but going hard and not going, not giving into the idea that we can win on positivity. But in any case, yeah, we've made a lot of progress, and when we look at what's coming out of the Biden team, following Biden Harris HQ on Twitter, follow Joe Biden or Joe Biden's personal Twitter. I mean, they're just killing it. If we had the whole swing map down ballot, which is what my focus is on now, is getting to that. We don't run half good strategy like we did in 22. We run full good strategy. And if we can do that, I think we can start to make enough noise that average Americans will hear, oh, there's a thing happening. Our democracy's in trouble. Because right now they don't know that. That pit in the stomach that you wake up with, that I wake up with, that's going to get worse and worse as we progress towards election day. The people we need to vote for democracy, they don't have that pit, because they don't read any of the news or follow any of the current events you do. Like this week, if I was to call people and ask them about news, there'd be two things that would probably get reported back to me. Just two. Think of all the things that happened this week. Two things. Number one, the bridge collapse. Okay. People will know about that. And number two, maybe that Diddy's house got raided.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like that's what normal humans are going to know, right? And I show that in Google data in that Google Analytics from 22. Like, guys, Roe v. Wade was just 10th on the list behind Amber and Johnny Depp's trial, behind Will
God.
Smith's Oscar slap. Okay, like that's the clay we have to work with. So and you were talking about getting out of your head, right? Yes, getting out of our head, because in our heads, like everyone knows all the stuff we already know. We have to find different things to tell them or argue about, right? And what I'm saying is nobody knows the thing you know. So the message that you need to get across is getting them up to speed on what you know. You know, the Republican Party is coming for democracy and for individual freedom, right?
It's almost like we're in our own little mini silo in a little bit of a way, because we're also engaged in politics and
Yeah.
it's easy to think that everybody else is too when all of us interact together daily,
Yeah.
So
You want
Hey,
to know
have you, hey, Monty Librarian, have you ever had someone come up to you and be like, "Hey, did you see what happened on the third down in the second quarter at the Falcons game?" And you're like, "Nah," and they start talking to you about it, like you're supposed to know because they know, and they know everyone else they know knows. So why wouldn't
Oh
you know?
yeah.
That's
And
the
like
same
I try to
thing.
be mindful, like especially the nature of my job. Like I try to really be mindful, especially teaching college students. Like they don't know as much as you do. Like like chill out. Like don't overload them. So but even being mindful, I had to be reminded that not everybody. I don't know about what happened in the third down or third inning or whatever third whatever.
I just want to
I
point
have a
out that
question.
Charlie Kirk he's terrified right now. Between the stuff he's saying, the stuff he's tweeting as far as the fundraising, and the fact that I got to point out that I'd like to say that the Fash Can't original, because did you see that he tried to copy your book, Rachel?
No, I didn't.
You did.
I have a question for
Yeah,
you,
he
Dr.
totally
Rachel.
tried to copy it. Anyway, thank
What
you.
do you mean he tried to copy my book?
I think he's talking about how Republicans need to know our playbook because he
Oh.
knows
Let
about
me,
your
let me go see
playbook.
if I can find it, and I'll put it in the chat. so
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
see it.
it literally looks like your jacket.
That's funny.
I saw your debate with Charlie Kirk from maybe a couple of years ago,
Yep.
and good God, like you have the patience of it. Like I thought I was patient. You have the patience of a saint because I would have lost my shit like halfway through that.
Yeah, I mean, truth is too, like guys, I went down there mission focused. I wanted to see the infrastructure. It was an excuse to get into something I knew I could never physically access otherwise. But mostly too, like I was talking to his audience, so I went into full professor mode, right? So because like you can't change Charlie Kirk, but there's a lot of impressionable young people that are watching his shows. So I could have used it to grandstand better, but I thought I'd use it to try to get at least a few of these young people some reality. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, the challenge is, what's the 21st century version of a pamphlet drop? If you have people who they don't have interest in news and politics, and now they don't have to see any, because we live in this incredibly unique and new world, folks. If you're old enough, and I know some of you guys are, you've lived in two worlds, the pre and post digital world. But take a second, especially if you are happen to have a foot in both of those worlds like I did, to appreciate how different communication and entertainment is now than it was in 2000. Like, if I wanted to watch a show, everyone kind of watched it on the same night. It was amazing when you could record shit on a DVR. No one. So we have to find a way to get information to people whose algorithms will never naturally produce it, because algorithms are set on your interest. And paid advertising is tough, right? There's only so much money that you'll ever have. So that's what, really focusing on things like billboarding and other things that can get beyond that self-selected, tone that we're in. But yeah, no one knows a thing about the government. And it's really funny because I'm modernizing democratic electioneering strategy using a finding from political science that's basically 60 years old. And that's about how strong partisanship is. That it's at the end of the day, you can sell a candidate all day, but you got to sell that party
Well,
Hey,
brand.
Doc.
Yeah, I have a question about partisanship. Have you gotten a lot of negative talk back from the
Real quick,
left
Derek.
about the
Hang
negative
on one second.
partisanship?
Hey, Derek, hang on one second.
Right.
So, Doc, if you go down and hit the message button down at the bottom, you'll see that Theron has posted a copy or a picture of the front cover of his book.
oh my God, it is just like yours.
Yeah. I had it on the show. I don't know,
Way to go,
last
Theron.
week. You see that, Rachel? Oh, she's on mute. Maybe she hit the mute button.
Yeah, I think she did.
Sorry, Derek. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure she saw the cover was in that chat box.
It's all good. It's all good. My question was on negative partisanship in the book, if she's gotten a lot of pushback from the left about us using that tactic because it is successful.
Yes, I mean, so basically what I say in the book, I say, listen, we are nice people. I get why you got into politics, right? If you're a member or whatever, right? Like you want to do good government, you care about policy, you care about people. Wonderful. Human psychology is such that it can be manipulated through negative partisanship and other techniques. The Republicans have developed and deployed and now perfected after 10, 15 years of running it, a system that does that. All right. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much we wish it was different. It is not different. Okay. And the ethics of engaging in politics in negative partisanship style strategy, to me, the price of not doing that when we could have made this pivot, we've been many people in this chat probably have been begging for years to make a messaging pivot. Right? Like, my God, people, look what they're doing to us. We got to change. And we delayed and delayed. And now the cost is this. So if you can't find it in you to be mean to Republicans and to tap into negative emotions to win elections, the price will be paid by trans people, by Latino people, by Black people, and by women, because what is coming to these folks far exceeds any ethical, hinge on your ethics, your personal moral compass. If we let Republicans win power, they are going to torture the most marginalized members of our society. So I feel ethically clean about what I'm doing. And I would argue, that anybody who's unwilling to make this pivot is really willing to risk the potential lives of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question from somebody in the audience who can't speak. She asked, how can we put more of Biden's dough, I'm assuming money, towards getting a candidate to run in every race?
Okay, I'm sorry, what?
How can we put Biden's money towards getting a candidate to run in every race? So I guess,
Talking about down ballot.
Yeah, down ballot. Because in a lot of states, especially like Missouri, Georgia's one of them, a lot of these Republicans run unopposed in districts that could very well, a Democrat might be able to even win. So how do we get that? How do we make that happen? I think is what she's asking.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about a big nation full of states, right? And then within the states, you got all these county parties and committees. Their job is to recruit candidates to run in these state legislative races and what have you, right? The DNC just contested a whole bunch of shit in Alabama, and look what happened, right? So like they're already making efforts to recruit and field and even fund as many candidates as possible. Now, I understand why people want to compete in every space. I understand that. If we had our own 20 billionaires and we weren't telling corporations we don't want your money because we have many candidates who who are running on, I will not take any big money. So we have no fucking money. Okay. Like, at the end of the
Why do
day,
people do that? I mean, I
you
know
know,
why they do that, but
yeah,
you know
because
what
it's
I'm saying?
morally and ethically, personally good to be against dark money or big money or corporate money. But at the end of the day, what is created is a system where they have an $80 million funded youth organization. And we have a bunch of grassroots groups where nobody gets paid, right? Like, so,
Yeah,
it's
and
tough medicine what I'm telling people. But at the end, so here's me. So in a world where we don't have all the money we need, and that's the world that we're in, I got to look at a dollar and say, okay, this dollar could win us the 217th House seat, right? That will allow the election in 2024 to be certified. Or should I give it to a long shot race where it's R plus 15 point party registration? Just waste of money. Now, I'm not saying you abandon those places. In fact, what I'm arguing is quite different. It's arguing intensive brand operation messaging in these red places to break brand allegiance away from Republicans, as they did to us to get these people in the first place to vote for Republicans, right? So I'm not saying you don't invest and don't work in those areas, but when you have to decide between a dollar into a competitive race that will make the 50th Senate seat and a dollar into Oklahoma's Senate race,
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it would be malpractice to send a dollar to an Oklahoma Senate race that could have gone down to Florida Senate to beat Rick Scott. And because we don't have enough money, we just don't. We need our own billionaires, like more, because we have one or two, but they don't spend ideally. They're not spending their money the way the Republicans do. And that's what I argue. We need to be building a federalist society, a judicial watch, a ALEC, a heritage foundation. We have, Brookings Institute. That's not going to come
Yeah.
in any.
So,
Yeah.
like, on kind of a following, not really, but kind of my personal question was, looking at Ohio and Florida, a lot of people are saying they're winnable. I don't know about their state legislatures, but at least for the presidential race, I have no faith left in those two. But I could be wrong. What are your thoughts on getting back Ohio and Florida?
Well, I mean, if we don't reelect Sherrod Brown this cycle, then we won't have a Senate majority. And if we don't have a Senate majority, even if we manage to dodge the presidential bullet and hold on to the presidency, we're going to have probably Senate Majority Leader Josh Hawley running the show in the Senate. And there will be 0 federal judges confirmed out of that Senate, not just Supreme Court vacancies, none of it. I don't think they'll confirm another judge for Democrats if they control the Senate. So, we can't throw in the towel on Ohio and Florida.
Oh, I was talking more about like the presidential, like electoral votes. Like, I think the Senate race is doable, definitely. I even think Florida has a senator, Rick Scott's up, right?
Yeah, I
But
mean,
like,
yeah,
go ahead.
it'd probably make no sense for Biden to spend heavily in Ohio, but it will make sense for him to spend in Florida. Because you're right, I don't know that they can get the Ohio is a tough nut to crack. And luckily for us, Sherrod Brown is an incumbent. If he was not, and we were open racing it like Tim Ryan, then we would be not having that seat.
And that's another reason why I really loved your book too, because I looked at, and granted, I didn't follow his race as closely as some of the others, but because I live in Georgia, so I was really focused on Warnock. But like I sat there when he lost, and I was like, how did he lose to that asshole? Like, and same with the guy from Wisconsin. Like, how did Ron Johnson beat him? And I know incumbents have a little bit of an edge, but he's an idiot. Like, how did he? And when you wrote about that in your book on why, it made so much sense. But I never would have. It's counterintuitive to like Democrats to think like that, and I get why there's a little bit of pushback, because not only do we want to be nice and take the higher road, and when they go low, we go all that bullshit. But like it's just counterintuitive, as a party, like that we don't like to sink to, like, but I don't really see it as sinking to a level, to be honest. Like, because it's not like we're lying. It's not like we're just shining the light on the bullshit that they've been doing, and we're not being nice about it anymore. You know.
Yep, exactly.
Mark, did you have a question that you want to ask Doc? Just hit the unmute button.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. Hey, Doc, how you doing? I love your book. It's fabulous. I have a comment and maybe a question contained in the comment. I live in Elise Stefanik's district here in upstate New York. Yeah, pray for me, please. The guy who's running against her, his name is Steve Holden. Did he take a page out of your, are you familiar with him at all?
I'm sorry, what race is this?
It's this Elise Stefanik in upstate New York. That's where I live.
Okay. Yeah.
And the guy who's running against her, his name is Steve Holden. And he's going, I mean, the messaging is something like right out of your book. So I'm thinking, it's a tough district, but it's pretty red, pretty Trumpy up here. But are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah, I can't keep everybody straight, but I'm excited that he's taking it hard and defining her as a MAGA extremist. I mean, that's what we have to be doing in all of these races. That we have to spend part of that, a big chunk of the budget, not on how great you are and all the shit you want to get done, but on how terrible their opponent is and how scary they would be for the people that have to vote, right?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about his messaging too is that he's actually going against the very traditional Democrats here in New York State, that they're old and they're stodgy and they just don't get it anymore. So I found that to be an interesting twist to his approach. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if I do my job well, you'll be seeing strategy like that coming out of a lot of the races. So we'll see.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying our best. I'm part of a group up here that's trying to register voters, especially young voters in college and even late in high school. So we're going to do our best. She's got to go. She's got to go,
Yeah, she's an insurrectionist. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Mark,
Thanks.
really quick.
Thanks, Mark, for your question.
Mark, really quick. I went to college in Potsdam, so I know the area you're talking about.
Yeah. It's a beautiful area up here, but
Beautiful, but yeah, I can imagine it's gotten a little Trumpy. It was a little Trumpy when I was there 20 years ago. So,
Mark, I'm so glad that Mark came up and not only shared a little bit about a race in his district, but also Rachel, did you notice he's talking about how he's engaging in real life, like because you said earlier digital army, because I think that's one thing that gets missed is that, there's so much everyone can do. And with the Fucking Fam here, there's so many talented people that contribute artistically to saving democracy. I want to say sometimes it's, in our nature to want to do everything, and really people should find what they're really good at and engage that way. And several of our members here with the Fucking Fam have found a way to engage, whether it's register voters or meet with their local politicians or just trying to hold people accountable, not just digitally, which we can all do on a mass scale very quickly, but also in real life.
Yep, I mean, it's all hands on deck moment. So I always tell people, if you're tired, think of how much more tired you'll be on November, whatever the day is this year. If you wake up, if you have to go to bed again like you did in 2016, except for this time it's forever. That's gonna make you feel shitty. So let's just get up, get it done, get the work done, grin and bear it. All right. Like, ultimately, all the effort we have to make is doable. We can't obviously trust our institutions and courts to be able to handle somebody who is as nefarious as Donald Trump, and now it's going to come down to the people. And the pundits on TV may feel great about that, but as an expert in American political behavior, I got to tell you, when your only hope is the people, you really got to get your shit together and make sure that the people, at least here, one message, because most of them will never hear a single message, one message about the Republican Party, it's a threat to your freedom.
I have a question about that too, along those lines. Like, see, the fiery nature of me, like when I hear somebody saying, "Oh, I don't want to vote for Biden because I don't like what he's doing. He's not doing this or he's not doing that," I feel a need to let them know that if Trump is president, they will suffer even more because everything will be taken away. Little pet projects. And I can't, like, I tell, especially more people that I know when I'm this saucy, but like your pet projects mean nothing right now. We
No,
need to get Trump out of here. So is that productive though? Like, because I can be like a loudmouth and, sometimes it just comes out of my mouth. Are those productive things to say? Like, look, dude, this is this is what's on the line. Or is that just going to go in one ear and out the other with people?
I mean, to some extent, if the person's calling him Genocide Joe, I wouldn't fucking waste your time or your breath on them. This is what I learned in 2016. Okay, because like we've already lived through this crisis. Okay, like, hey, folks, we love, I get that Bernie was a thing and that you have these big feels about it. But for fuck's sake, if we don't elect Hillary Clinton, not only are they going to repeal Roe, okay, because they are, and boom, they did. We could have had a liberal majority on the court for the first time in 30 fucking years. We could have used it to get rid of gerrymandering, to end Citizens United, all these pet projects that you're referring to, okay? Like, we were on the cusp of achieving it all. All we had to do was vote for fucking Hillary Clinton. And these people would not budge. So I'm here to tell you that if they're that strident where they're genocide joeing you, you're just wasting your breath. But if there's a lot of other people that are Biden hesitant right now that I think are winnable, and I think the argument is definitely to make sure they understand what Project 2025 and Agenda 47 are laying out to do to whatever their particular interest group is. If it's trans rights, the trans people are getting rounded up right away. All the parents that help their kids transition are going to be facing criminal charges.
Yeah, I've read all of both. And
I want to expand on that, if I can. So you're talking about, don't waste your breath with some of these people, which I completely agree. Like, yeah, you can stand in the corner and yell and scream your fucking nonsense. Go ahead. But more to the point of, because we hear from the media with these ridiculous fucking polls that are, not telling us what is actually happening, because we're seeing the actual polls at the ballot box tell us something different. But with the Nikki Haley voters, because we're going to see a lot of this talk about Nikki Haley voters, which I don't actually think is bad messaging to try to get those people to say, oh, well, everyone's saying Nikki Haley voters are going to vote for Biden, so I voted for Nikki Haley, so maybe I should vote for Biden. So and sometimes it just takes like a third party endorsement to get people across the line. So do you think that there is a place that we could message to those people who were Nikki Haley voters, maybe Republican, maybe, and then maybe they all.
Here's the thing that we know about. If you read my book, then you should know now that you should understand that it's about partisanship. I don't need to know anything about you. You can just be a black dot. But if I know which party you lean towards, or that you're a partisan, I can predict your vote 95% of the time a year out. Okay, that's how powerful partisanship is, and it's very difficult to get a Republican to vote for a Democrat. But as I've alluded to, we have these realignments going on where Republicans went and hunted on education, grievance cultural advertising messaging, to wedge first white males and now just men in general across all races away from the Democratic brand. Okay, we also that process produced a lot of fuel for the Republican coalition, bringing in union white working class voters in the Midwest, whatever. But it cost them stuff every time they ran grievance politics, culture war campaign, especially as it got dumber and dumber as we move into the Trump era. College educated suburbanite Republicans and right leaning independents have been like, yeah, right? And some of them de aligned even before Trump, right after Trump won the nomination, was kind of a shuffle, but it's been an erosion ever since. That erosion under negative partisanship strategy is intentionally exploited and enhanced, right? So in Michigan, defining Tudor Dixon as a MAGA extremist who's coming for your control of your body. That's, yeah, they further, you can tell by the Whitmer and really all three of the statewide by the margins that they whittled away some of that suburban Republican vote. Okay. And so what we want, so if, as hard as partisanship is, I think it's easier to get a Haley voter in this cycle to vote one time for Joe Biden if it's about voting against Trump and you don't try to remind them about Joe Biden's liberalism, because that would be bad. Okay. So focus on Trump. You can wedge off some of these people. And in fact, I'm hoping to be able to deploy strategies like that in the swing map.
Great news. Vixen, did you have a question that you want to ask? I noticed you came up and went that down. Did you have a question?
Not necessarily a question, just a couple things that have been rolling around in my head. One thing I've been thinking about, and love to get your thoughts on this, Doctor. We can find ways to get these undecided or Nikki Haley voter, third party, don't pay attention to politics, what have you. Every single one of us feels viscerally tied to one of these, big political issues, whether it's Ukraine, what's going on in Thailand or Taiwan, Russia, China, Haiti, our own border, whatever it is, doesn't matter, bodily autonomy. But if you can make them, here's the thing I've learned, like some of these people don't realize that their empathy has been weaponized against them, or it's been deadened or turned off. And you have to stop them, make them think about how this policy that they're voting for, if they're voting GOP, is really going to affect them personally.
Yes.
It's going to hurt people they love, they care about. They have to, see when they drop their kids off at school, different things like that. If you can make it visceral, if you can make it emotional for them, that's an open door. Then you can wedge that open a little bit. They'll, bring the facts for that one thing and then step back, let them marinate. That's what I've been thinking. Sorry, I know it's not really a question.
No, I'm sorry. I just wasn't sure if you were done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like you're right. Everyone has one thing, right? Like one of these, thing. They might not be interested in politics, but there might be something that interests them. What I would tell you though is that, as you just alluded to, you really want to make sure that it's a personalized threat, because only we care about outgroups, and by we I mean liberals. Okay, progressive people on the spectrum of a bell curve, if you can imagine a rainbow style curve, we call that a bell curve in statistics. We are in the tail of ideology. Like we are not normal. Okay. And because of that, because we are not normal, we're atypically liberal people. We have atypical ability to emphasize and care about outgroups. Nobody else has that shit. And so like one of the things that I'm trying to get people to do, it's not just about going high or going low. It's about, we're making messaging made by liberals for liberals. Okay. Like the people we want our messaging to resonate are not liberals, most of them. Okay. Certainly not to the level that we are. And so what we want to be making is personalized argument. Like, yes, it's coming for your freedom, your wife, your daughter, your Social Security, not, hey, you should vote for Democrats because they're going to help this other group. And honestly, like as much as we care about the rights of minority groups, and I don't mean like necessarily racial minorities, but also including racial minorities, we care about those groups. Most people do not care about other people. They care about themselves, their in-group, and whatever they perceive to be their tribe. And we can either continue to fight against that psychological reality, which is what we do with most of our messaging now, or we can accept it and design a system that it best exploits it. Any other questions?
So I want to expand just a bit on that too, because it's easy to get caught in the weeds, right, Doc, with messaging. In other words, like we want to think about it so hard that we kind of miss the point sometimes. And I'm glad that it got brought up, because I believe that liberals, progressive Democrats have a difficult time talking about issues in a way that you would talk to people at a kitchen table. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, well, let me go get this pile of statistics and data to show you why I'm correct and why I'm so smart. And that's just not stuff that you do at a kitchen table, like when you're talking with your family or friends. So, and that's an easy way. That's how I try to communicate it to people, like how you should be talking about issues, as if you're talking at a table, whether it's like, just in the comment section on Twitter or in real life at a grocery store. An example is my mom the other day said she was standing in line at the grocery store and the lady was buying groceries and they told her total and she was like, "Oh, thanks, Joe Biden," or something like that, or And I told my mom, I said, you should have looked at her and said, "How's your 401k? Mine's doing great. Thanks, Joe Biden."
No
So
doubt.
like, you gotta meet these people where they are, and kitchen table is usually a good way to meet them.
So I have time for one more question. Who's going to get it?
Who's getting the question? Who's
Can
raising their hand?
I think this is a universal question. And it's, what do you recommend that we do to help the message? Like for an everyday person in everyday situations, what's the one thing that is the most helpful when you only have like moment at the grocery store with somebody who's complaining about Joe Biden, or if you want to do something to help the cause, but you don't know what to do. What is the one thing that is most helpful?
Brand up, brand down. Say something that lifts Democrats up and shits on the GOP brand.
So pivot and attack.
I mean, that too, I mean, there's, to me, like, if Donald Trump wants to walk by and say the words law and order, like, he's going to regret it, right? Because I'm going to be like, law and order? You want to talk about law and order, Mr. 91 indictments, right? And he will never fucking mention it again because I would eviscerate him, right? So, like, a lot of it, a lot of it is just that, you have to be able to put aside your emotion and not take the bait, because they're going to bait you into a defensive posture right away. Why do you want to kill babies, right? And you have to learn how to not respond and to stay on your own focused mission, which is whatever it might be in that conversation. But not everyone's going to be able to respond on the cuff. I'm more concerned about what the content you're creating digitally looks like. In the book, there's 7 steps to messaging. You can make a checklist. Got to have that villain explicitly named Republicans. You can't have 15 villains. Just have Republicans. not big oil, not pharma, not Congress. You've already made people very pissed off at government. Now you got to tell them who to be pissed off at. And if you aren't telling them it's Republicans, they're not going to magically know when they read Congress that you mean Republicans. So follow those tips in the Art of Electoral War, section 3 of the book, and make sure that you are using, as few words as possible.
Good sound advice.
Thanks, Doc, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you guys.
We had over 30 people here listening, so that's pretty good accomplishment in a little private Discord somewhere. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my Discord debut, and yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you again for using the book and making it useful. And please tell everybody that you can about the book, because if they read the book, they could be more useful too.
That's the second thing, or tied with the first thing. Buy the book.
Yeah, buy it and read it, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a college professor, so I know you got to add that part in.
Yeah, no, yeah. I teach information literacy, so I getcha.
They'll buy the book all day long, but will they read it? You know, that's the question. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you.